I feel bad. Part of me feels bad for beating up on the Postal Service, and part of me kind of secretly enjoys it because they've kind of brought this on themselves by just decades of just like mismanagement. And I
have my theory on this, by the way.
I digress. Okay. So we have okay. So we talked about this a while back. The Postal Service has been shopping around for contracts on their new. We used to call them the mail truck or the mail Jeep, or they weren't Jeeps. The current generation is a Chevrolet engine.
Right.
It was originally placed in the S10. It was not by any means a reliable or efficient engine.
No.
But these are the kinds of things that it's a government. It's basically the lowest bidder, because we didn't learn anything from the space shuttle.
They all run like crap.
Yeah.
Period. If you haven't heard the rattles of your postal worker,
it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah. It's just like, holy cow, man! The mail guy's here or mail gal's here, whatever.
So they're looking at So they had made a decision or a commitment in one direction, and news comes out on that. Now this one, it was
it's the contract was awarded to OSHKOSH Defense in the spring of 2021.
Which makes perfect sense to me, right? I mean, you want to be relying on an automotive manufacturer that has tons of experience in the fleet vehicle industry, so you go with a company that nobody's ever heard of, right?
Right.
I mean, what?
Right.
Yeah.
So these guys were hooked up for the replacement of the there's about 150,000 of those what they call the Grumman long life vehicles, or what we call LOVs, which Keith just mentioned, which is basically an S10 pickup truck, and they use those 2.5 liters. Now, me being in the engine component manufacturing side of the industry for years, I'm very aware of it. There's a lot of production engine rebuilders out there that have these contracts on the rebuilding of the mail trucks for the government.
Right.
And just sending out valve train in droves for these things. I mean, it's the gift that keeps on giving. That's how bad these things are designed. They're not very good at all. They get crappy gas mileage. And that's what's going to lead us into this story. So here we are in 2022, right? And it's now time for a new replacement. And the big talk is EPA, climate
we're a
change.
decade and a half past these things being time to be replaced.
Oh my goodness, man! They could. Okay, so I think that the gas mileage, the EPA gas mileage rating on these things, the average is 8.2 miles to the gallon. Now, keep in mind, there's a lot of idling going on.
Well, they're carrying a ton of weight. I mean,
they're carrying a ton of weight. It's not. It's a 2.5. It's a 4-cylinder engine. These guys are basically driving up, slamming the thing into park, putting the parking brake on and getting out and stuffing boxes, man. That's what they do. They're going point A to point B. These are your last mile delivery vehicles. This is what these are. Now, in podcast past, we talked about last mile delivery vehicles, which Amazon, if you want to check out our last podcast or any of our videos on that at partscounterguru.com, /podcast, please go there, or go to youtube.com/Parts Counter Gurus and hit the subscribe button for us. You'll see those videos. But Amazon has invested into the 100,000 electric vehicles from Rivian, which are huge delivery vans. But now they're going after Stellantis for the last mile type vehicle, which they're going to tap into the all electric Ram van that's going to be coming out for Amazon. Anyway, I'm getting off the main subject here, which is the U.S. Postal Service is at a point to where they're being asked to replace this stuff. And as part of the infrastructure bill, I think, and I think Biden had part of the EPA strategy was to get some money to the U.S. Postal Service to help them replace this stuff. $11.3 billion dollar contract, I think, is what it was for a gas-powered truck purchase, which I found in itself to be very odd, Keith.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have Amazon basically proving that it can be done with an EV. Mm-hmm. They've not only proven that, they're now redoubling their commitment to, Rivian and Stellantis, like we just talked about, and like we've talked about many times, and basically solidifying that as the next generation delivery vehicle. And we have basically Grumman, the military contractor, right?
Right.
Coming out with kind of a 2 decades old version. Now, part of this is, again, I think, Jay, because it's going to a low bidder. And if they were... Efficiency isn't cheap, right?
Right.
So we're going to have to do this. I mean, the mail service is already broke. I mean, they're beyond broke. So they have my
theory on. I have my theory on this, by the way, and we'll get into that here in just a second on what's going on.
But why? It's kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth, if you will, from a government that is simultaneously pushing for cleaner fuel vehicles,
right,
and then putting something like this on the road. I mean,
right, and to that point, what we're about to tell you, the EPA sent a letter to the U.S. Postal Service and said that the whole reason to buy new mail trucks was to make them cleaner, better, and safer. The EPA said last fall that it had a problem with how the U.S. Postal Service conducted an earlier EIS about the truck purchase and that the final EIS remained seriously deficient. In other words, they investigated this. They took bids. They're looking into how can we best combat the problem of climate and run efficient and be safer all in one, and going in the direction of a gas vehicle in the middle of an electric vehicle revolution made absolutely no sense to me. And so the company, the one thing that stuck out the most to me was 8.2 miles per gallon is what the old ones got.
Yeah.
These new ones, the gasoline versions, are only 8.6.
Oh, well, that's a huge improvement.
Miles
I mean,
per
I
gallon.
can see... Now, wait. Now, here. So those came out in what decade, Jay? I'm not asking you for the specific year, but it was the 80s, right?
It was definitely the 80s, yes.
Okay. So let's see. I'm no math lead here. Let me just do some quick radio math. All right. So 80s to 90s, that's 10 years. 90s to 2000, that's 20 years. 30, 40 years. 40 years, Jay. We're coming up on 40 years. In 40 years, we have made the groundbreaking advancement of 0.4 miles per gallon.
Right. And on the ugly scale.
Wow.
On the ugly scale. So the ugly scale of the old version was about an 8.2. The ugly scale on the new version, in my opinion, is about a 9.5.
It looks like Howard the Duck.
It really does. And here's what I got to say. They must be really expecting for some Postal Service workers to have really big heads. I don't know, because that windshield is like the size of a football field now.
Yeah, it
crazy.
makes
no sense to me. How can that be safer? Right? Think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know there's factors involved here that we don't know.
That's
I know
a whole lot of space to fly through the windshield, man, if you get rear-ended.
This is just not... Yeah, man. I just think it all comes back to they just didn't have the money to do it right.
Okay, you want to hear my theory on this?
Yes, please.
Okay, in recent news, the U.S. Postal Service it's been questionable as whether or not it's going to operate. As we all know, it operates privately. Okay? When you get this amount of money offered by the government to help replace it, and then you don't, and you do this, shame on you. You had your moment. You could have done it. I think that this is the nail in the coffin for the U.S. Postal Service, that this is what's going to put them down because they are not going to be able to reach this goal. They're not going to make it. I think that the government, the EPA, is going to shut them down because they're not going to fund them anymore, and this is the way to get the nail in the coffin. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I think you might be onto something. I think this might be an episode or a podcast that I have to dog ear and come back to in the near future for an I Told You So. It would be interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's...
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, all the writing's on the wall with these guys. Now, I will say this. I am a fan of the U.S. Postal Service. Always have been and always will be for two reasons. There are certain things that I like to get in the mail. Also, I like the convenience of being able to drop something in the mail at a local post office and have that one-on-one with your postal worker that you see every single day. That person has a job. That person has a family. That person is most likely a veteran because the U.S. Postal Service hires a lot of veterans. So that's my concern about it. If we lose it, that's my opinion.
Mr. McFeely will be out of work.
Yeah, man. But I do really think that this is the writing on the wall. I think that they're going to pull the plug on them here.
It's just been a mess, man. Yeah.
Because the Postal Service said that there's no way with that amount of money they can go all electric. They need more money to do it. And the government's not going to give it to them.
I mean, is there anybody in the business world, tycoons, Elon Musk's, Richard Branson, Shark Tank, all the people on Shark Tank, right? The Mark Cubans. Is there anybody in this world that could fix this? That could,
I know exactly who it is.
Service?
Yep, I know exactly who it is. It's just a quick name change and a badge, and that's it. You're done.
Who?
Jeff Bezos is going to call the U.S. Postal Service will become Amazon.
Okay.
It will become Prime.
Oh, ooh. Now you've just opened the conspiracy theory box. Is that why he left? Is that why he stepped down from Amazon so he could start up this? Wow.
You never know. You never know.
Okay. Wow. This just everybody. This is
make sure you subscribe.
Conspiracy theory day.
Yeah. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast here at partscounterguru.com. /podcast. That's the podcast link there. You click on that. You can subscribe to any level of platform that you want, whether that be Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, or is it Intune or it's TuneIn?
TuneIn, yeah.
Then Google Podcasts, etc. Just make sure you subscribe to that, and then make sure you catch these video segments over on YouTube at youtube.com/PartsCounterGurus. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn that subscribe button from red to gray. Ring that bell. Click that bell to be notified when more of these videos come out.